Well, off camera, I cleaned the block up. Yes, there's a bit of surface rust here and there, but it's not terrible. And the reason that is just because of the nature of where we live. We don't seem to get the days where it's dry all the time, and that's unfortunately kind of what happened here. Was even though I sprayed the cylinders and stuff down, I didn't do the whole block, and I wouldn't say I'm paying the price, but there's a little surface. It's not going to hurt anything. But I've cleaned the cylinders out. I cleaned the lifter bores out. Cleaned the main caps, which I've already pulled. They're sitting behind you on a rag so that they're not getting garbage on the flat surfaces. What you got to be careful of is when you're cleaning these out, I don't care what kind of rag you use. I'm using those blue paper towel things. They will steal because this is just such a, the casting of these things are just, they'll cut you, literally. And that's the problem, is that some of that stuff will get caught on some of these and they'll leave fuzz in there. You don't want the fuzz in the oil holes. You don't want fuzz between your main caps and your block when you go down. You don't want any of that crap in there. So fight the urge of using rags all you possibly can. So, all right, so we're going to get started, and I'm going to dry fit the crank, and we're going to plastic gauge it. Now, I'll get into that here in a minute, and we'll talk about this, but until then, we need to make sure that we get the right bearings in the right positions. Most of these bearings, and it's probably too reflective, you may or may not be able to read all of that. I will try to turn it really slow so you can read them. I don't know if it's going to focus on it or not. But this actually tells you stuff. It tells you the date of manufacturing, February of 21. It says lower, 10 under, 0.010 under, and then a part number or whatever. Okay. For those of you who don't watch my LS stuff, all engines are basically the same as far as top and bottom. So what you've got to resist is reading this and understanding which is top and bottom. The engine is now upside down. This says lower. Well, when you're looking at it this way, first timers might realize, well, that's the lower side, so you'll stick that in the lower end. That's not going to do you any good. Let me explain why. Number one is you notice the main bearing. The lower ones have no holes in them at all. They don't have grooves, they don't have holes. That goes on the cap side. That is considered the lower because when you turn the engine upside down the right direction, the main cap is now the lower end. So in comparison to, that is the thrust bearing is what I just showed you. Let me get the rest of the bearings out here. I'm doing it behind you so I can beat them together. That's perfect. I know, off camera. Trying to dig them out without hurting anything. And I'm not telling you always have to use Clevite or Mall bearings or whatever. Clevite's what I've always used. Just get something decent to begin with, Okay, and this one is the opposite bearing of that. This is the thrust. As you notice, it has an oil groove in it and hole in it. And that goes in conjunction with the holes you see in the block. The oil is forced through there. That's where your oiling comes from, is from basically the top of the block. So with that said, this now says, this bearing, opposite side, says 2 of 21 upper, 10 under. So make sure you clean it all off. We're going to plastic gauge, and you actually need to dry fit those, and not everybody likes doing it. And believe me, I don't like putting dry bearings in either, but you don't want to oil these things up prior to putting a crankshaft in and trying to plastic gauge it. I'm not saying you can't. If you just are 100% against it, then I got it. You know what I mean? Do it that way, but it throws off your numbers a tad. The bearing in, we're going to do that same thing to all of these. I'm making sure that there's no debris on the back sides of them, and they all say 10. They should all say 10 under. And again, even the smaller ones have the grooves in them and the holes cut in the bottom. So that way, for, like I said, for oiling purposes. So don't mix these up. Put the top and the bottom spot. I'm not even sure you can. I'd have to look at the main cap. Some of them are probably cast. Those little, I'll show you here in a second. they have locks on them. You can probably see it better. You can actually see that hanging down right there. That actually could probably, the main cap may not allow you to do that, but that one's actually 12 of 20. Different year, but it's still different date, I guess I should say. But still says upper, still says 10. Like I said, it's always a good idea to look at this. And this is another reason why we're plastic gauging, is because I'm buying aftermarket parts. The machine shop did not buy them. I bought them myself, and I want to make sure there's not an issue somewhere. But I'm going to be really careful. There's nothing left. Try to resist the urge of touching anything with your fingers or anything else except something that wipes debris off. You don't want any debris in this stuff at all. Death to engines and bearings by allowing debris to be in them. Okay. Alright. Now that that's in, we can get the crank out of the bag, which is sitting off camera. Now, I haven't looked this over to make sure that it doesn't have any debris anywhere, so I'm going to have to do that real quick. The machine shop's really good about keeping everything clean, but I see a couple spots I'm going to have to wipe it down. So off camera, I had to work the last few days, so the engine's actually sat for, that's why I sprayed it down like I said, but unfortunately, well, see, I'm wiping down that rag and immediately I start getting blue crap all over. I know you can't see what I'm doing. I apologize for that. I'm trying to get the mains completely wiped down where there's no debris anywhere on them, because again, we're doing just to make sure that everything is doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, I've got that doggone crap everywhere. That blue rag crap. I shouldn't have messed with that. There's probably better stuff out there, you know, as far as. All right, be really careful. Make sure you're putting it down the way it's supposed to go. Go nice, easy, and slow. Do not turn it for any reason. Do not turn that crankshaft without any oil on or lubricant. Don't do it. So now I'm going to take the mains, which I dropped the bolt already wiped down off camera, which immediately did garbage on it, and I actually had it sitting on a clean rag. Anyway, so now we're going to put the what they consider the lower bearings in, and sure enough, they're offset. You almost can't put them in wrong. This has actually got a offset where the keeper is off. It's actually almost more centered than the other ones are. The mains for the block are actually offset quite a bit more. All right. Making sure there's no debris on it. We're not tightening anything down. That blue fuzz, I'm going to have to do something different on final assembly. Just starting them. If you want to see, you know, there's other people out there, obviously, who has done rebuilds on all engines, not just one specific brand or one specific size or whatever. But if you're doing a specific size engine or whatever, and then there's some that are even like if you're watching somebody do a old tractor engine or a international or something like that, well, obviously, you know, you want to watch somebody who does that specifically if you can, because there's a lot of things in those that are specific for those engines, if that makes any sense. Yes, I've kept these in order. They are numbered with arrows facing forward, so you know which one goes which direction. The middle one, number 3, is the one that has the thrust bearing. The thrust bearing is what locates the crank in play, left, you know, like end to end. So that's also very specific. But like this is number 3. I think I showed you with an arrow facing forward, so you kind of, I know it's hard to see, but trust me, it's accurate. Small block Chevys, well, all engines have their thrust may be in a different place. Like the small block Chevy is different than like an LS. It's in a different location. So, you know, sometimes it's just the way it works. So you got to be sure where all this stuff goes. Number 2. You know what? I'm putting these on here. I didn't put any of the... idiot. You know, I did this last time too. I did my last LS. I got the whole thing almost together and realized I didn't put the plastic gauge in. So we'll do that right quick. Let me put the last bearing in this main so we're ready to go when we do. I'm sure half of you are on there, hey, what are you doing, stupid? Thought you said you was going to use plastic gauge. Well, yep, you're right. That's exactly what I said I was going to do. Okay, plastic gauge. Obviously, anywhere on the internet, you're going to be able to find out not only clearances, but torque specs. This is all very, very, very important. Those are done accurately. Well, luckily I didn't hit the bearing surface. And I see a little bit of debris. Piece of fuzz, it looks like. I'll just make sure nothing else fell on there. Okay. Plastic gauge. Got it from AutoZone. There. I can't stand my camera work. There's different colors in here. There's green, there's red. There's also blue and yellow, which they do not sell. You have to order them if you want them from AutoZone anyway. We need the green. The green is the minimum amount, tightest clearance one that you could possibly find. So here's where a lot of people make their mistake. They grab this stuff and they look at it and it says 0.025 to 0.0, see if you can see that. It's kind of bright in here. 0.076, but it also says millimeters. You don't want that in this application. Turn it over, and all of a sudden, it's now in inches. 0.001 to 0.003 inches. That's what you're wanting here on these American engines that I'm building right now. So keep that in mind. I will show you what's inside this, but first, since I did not grab them, and I don't know what I did with them, I think they're in the... I walk in front of the camera like an idiot. What did I do? I've lost my scissors. I think I left them in the car, like I said. I had them out for something. Anyway, almost positive I didn't put them away, because that doesn't sound like something I would have done. Alright, fine, we'll use tin snip then. That's what I've got laying around here. Alright, sorry. My bad. Back in front of the camera. Okay, so we don't need a lot on this, but you need to make sure that you have enough to do not only all of the mains, all 5 mains, but also you want to be able to do all 8 rods. So this particular video is going to be mains. The next either segment or next part of this video is going to be the rods, but for now let's concentrate on getting the mains in to get the crank completely done and in, and then we will do the rods. So I guess I better show you some stuff here right quick before we do this. This particular, like I showed you a minute ago, was 0.001 to 0.003. Now I am old school because I'm in my 50s and I learned everything off of books. This is an old Chilton book from, I don't know how long I've had this thing, but this specific is, this is an 88 Lincoln motor we're using. It's the non-high output 302, because we have two of them listed there. Mine is the non. They're going to be the same, but in this particular instance, all the numbers are the same. But in the same token, it's better to make sure you're doing the one you're on. But if you have trouble finding, if you have a kind of an oddball engine, but they happen to use that same engine in a truck or something like that, most of the time, a lot of that stuff's pretty close. But please do your research. Don't guess, especially if you're dealing with anything that's aluminum to cast, or you know what I mean, or aluminum to aluminum. Aluminum does not give if you get ignorant. So keep that in mind. All right. So what we're after is, this is crankshaft. This gives you the whole diameter if you're using accurate tools. This is main bearing clearance, end play, thrust, and then we're getting a connecting rod. So what we're looking for is bearing clearance. So if you go down here to the 302 non-high output, it's looking for 0004 to 0015. Now, if you remember looking at this a minute ago, this does not go as small. Sure I'm on the right one. Nope. It doesn't go as small as it's 001, not 0004. But it falls into the 001. So as long as you're still less than 0015, but it's not completely flat smashed, and believe me, you'll be able to kind of tell when if it's wrong. And then each one of these gives you, I'll show you how to use it here in a minute, but basically though, the more smashed it is, the tighter the clearance. So, well, I just wanted to show you though that not all of them do exactly what you think, or they, they're not going to meet your exact needs. And I'm going to tell you that plastic gauge is not a absolute precision instrument. They make precision tools specifically for this. The machine shop did the crank, machine shop did the boring. So you have to trust it. No, you don't have to trust them. You should be able to trust your machine shop, but in a lot of cases, it's a good idea to double check. Besides the fact that my machine shop now does not order parts because of this crap that's going on. We're having trouble getting anything. That's why this is taking so long to build, is because I have to wait for everything. So since he didn't order the bearings, he couldn't do any of that checking himself. The bearings come to my house. So I have to trust that the bearings are proper and that he did the right job. But to double check for your home without having to buy, really expensive tools you may only use one time, plastic gauge is definitely the way to go. But it's not 100%. I mean, it's accurate. It gets you in the ballpark. Maybe I should say it that way. It's accurate, gets you in the ballpark. But if she has smashed absolutely flat and you're having trouble turning the crank once you bolt it all together, you got a problem somewhere. Or if it's got barely, if you haven't even smashed the stuff, well, obviously you have another problem. So anyway, that's where we're at. So I'm going to cut little pieces off this, since I don't know where my scissors are at. I think they're out in the car. So I'm going to cut a few of these. Don't have to be super long, because like I said, we have to make sure we got enough to do and I need 5 of them, since I have 5 main bearings. And AutoZone only had 1 of these in stock. They said they had 2. I wanted to buy both. They're only like less than $5. So, all right. Once they're cut small like that, I know you didn't see what I was doing. Now you need to open them up and get the green crap out. And I probably should have. Actually, there it is right there. It's trying to fall out now. I don't know if you can see it. See him right there? We're going to pull him out and I'll show him to you. Come on. Come on. That's all it is. That's it. I know it's hard to see with the engine in the background, but so basically I'm going to lay one right here. Can you see that from where you're at? Probably not. I'm going to lay one. Every one of them. Uh-oh. Oh, there he is. Definitely when I'm done, I'll pull you off, or after I put the mains on, we'll torque them down, and we'll take them all back off again, and I'll definitely show you every one of them. So if you can't see what I'm doing right now, you'll see definitely when I'm done here. Right now I'm trying to get them things out of there without dropping them on the floor. Uh-oh. Hard to do with gloves on. I may have to take them off. You know what? It's probably just a better idea to do it. Hard to be precision when you're... I might have to get some new gloves too. I'm about out. Oh, those things are expensive. Ah. The furnace has now been on a little longer than I want, and now it's getting hot in here. Yep. 2 more to go, and we'll get after it. I think I was better with the gloves on. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. It actually landed in my other hand. See, they're kind of fiddly, but considering what they do, and that one is MIA. Oh, I just dropped it. That's off the last second. Fall out of my hand, and I about guarantee you I'm not going to be able to pick it up off the floor without destroying it. I'd like to tell you I got a clean floor, but I don't. I did clean it up here a while back, and then the wind picked up 800 mile an hour, and I opened the garage door. Of course. All right, they're all on there. There's one. See it there? There's one. There. There it is. All right, they're all on there now. Now we're going to put the main caps on. I know this seems kind of fiddly and ignorant and stuff like that, but believe me when I tell you, this could actually save you an engine. If you have a problem, you want to find out before it's in the car. And sometimes people will have the machine shop build the engine for them, and this one can and will do it for you, but I've always enjoyed doing them myself. That's just something that I've never had one fail on me that was, you know, if it had a problem, it was usually something I overlooked or I didn't do this kind of stuff to it. And that's kind of stuff that'll, you know, that actually had, that bearing had something in it I didn't like. But it's luckily it's aluminum, and I managed to get it off there without fighting it too much. Okay, the quality of this stuff here recently is just not as good as it used to be. You know what I mean? It's just not, and that's just too bad, because it used to be. I used to rebuild several engines a year. No, I do not do this for a living, but come on. I'm going to walk around the camera again because I was not prepared. And I am not running this down with this and just beating on it. This is just a... You wonder why that one main bolt there in the center looks different than the rest, where it's got kind of a stud sticking up. That's because this is where the original Lincoln oil pickup tube bolted to. This one is going to have a front sump pan on it now, so that's not, the nut will probably stay off. And if it does have a bolting, which it's so short I doubt it does, but if it does have a place to bolt up, probably one of these. So I actually need to pull the pan. I've got the new pan and the pickup tube there. I need to pull them out and figure out which one is going to be, you know, if I have to put that bolt in a different place. All right, now I'm turning 2 pages over off camera. Just going to have to trust what I tell you. You can look it up, of course. Now we're going to do torque sequence, or torque numbers. And we're not doing sequence quite yet, although I usually start in the center and move out. There is actually a torque sequence on it. Heads are the most, that's the ones you really need to do right. You need to follow that torque spec exactly. Especially if you're doing aluminum heads or something like that. But and it's just a good idea to follow all torque sequence no matter what. But that said, 302 heads, main caps, 60 to 70 foot-pounds. So I'm going to start, because this is how I like to do stuff, I'm going to start at 30. Now, it doesn't say that, but I'm going to do it half first. And the reason why is I just want to make sure everything is going to do what it's supposed to do. There's 30. There's 30. And we'll move up to, I'll probably do like 60 or 65. I can go 70, not a big deal either way. I'm using the shortest socket I can use, get to, because I don't want it so far up and it throws it off. And you want even, nice even pulls on your torque wrench. Matter of fact, it's a good idea. Just keep your fingers on it and make it nice and even. Now this is only 30 pounds. When you get up there to the 140, 50 pound range on some of the stuff you got to do, yeah, you got to have 2 hands on it. But in this case, just do it nice and easy. There's no reason to, you know, just try to monkey plug it and everything like that. Just jerk and pull and twist and everything like that. You're going to hurt yourself, and you may be inaccurate on your torque specs, if that makes any sense. And same way with using a an extension. You really don't want to use an extension if you can help it, because you lose torque by using that longer tool, if that makes any sense. All right, it's 30 all the way around. Now we're going to go up to, I'll probably go to 65. And there's 60, 2, 4, 65. Got to put my foot on the back of the engine stand now. You know what I don't have? I do not have this thing pinned. That's going to cause a problem. It won't fall off, but it'll turn on me. So, all right, there we go. 65. 65. I think I did this one next, didn't I? I don't remember. I may not have. I don't think I did actually, but it's okay. Again, it's coming back apart again anyway. Okay. Just double checking. Always a good idea. Perfect. That's 65 all the way around. Now I'm going to do something, and I'm not telling you what to do with your own tools, but it would be in your best interest to not use your torque wrench to unscrew stuff. If that tells you know what I mean. The torque wrench is for torquing, not for loosening bolts. So I use a breakover bar to take them back loose again. Make sure it does not fall off. I'm talking about the, I know my engine stand turned. Come on. Make sure the socket doesn't fall off and fall on your good crank where your rods go. Oh, come on. I know I didn't go in a very good order, but ugh. 65 don't sound like a lot. Alright, I'm going to run the camera for the 400th time. Alright, sometimes these will come off easy. Sometimes they won't. The end ones are usually the hardest. I'll bring you back here in a second. Alright, back from lunch. That was what the phone call was. Alright, now I haven't touched anything since we left, except I moved it a little more in line. See if I can get these mains out here without turning the crank. The end ones are always going to be the hardest, well, in this case, because it's got the holder for the one-piece rear main seal in it. Come on, come on. Ugh. Okay, here's one. Second one. This one is the thrust. This one's going to be difficult to get out too because it's got... Yeah, let me get the other ones out first. Come on. This one's stuck all on the yeah, I'll get it here in a minute. Stuck all on the bearing. I really don't want to beat on this. However, you're gonna have to do it. Use a dead blow. Something that's not. There you go. I have too much stuff in this garage. And then just tap it a little bit this direction. Easy. Alright, they're all out. Now what to do, this one's gonna, I'm gonna have to get the bearing out for that. And I'm gonna show you the marks it left first so that you get an idea of what I'm looking at. Every one of them. Squash that little green thing out. You can actually see how much bigger now it is. Now this one, like I said, most of that stuck to the bearing. So when we get that one first. That was the first one. I don't know if you're going to be able to. Yeah, you can see it there. Man, my camera work. I got that upside down, so it's hard to see. So you take the advantage to this, of course, is that this actually has its own little gauge on each piece of it. So it makes it really easy, except in this case where it's round like it is. So, and you look at that, it is, and it's going to be hard to see, like I said, because I'm having to kind of bend it around. .001. It's actually not quite that size, but it is .015. Because .002, it's no, it's bigger than that. .0015, and that actually, according to the specs here, .0015 is the maximum it can be. Let's check the rest of these here. Yep, 015. Same. This one's a little thin, or no, harder to see too, but yep, they're all actually. I really don't like it being the maximum .0015, but that's what they are. They're all to the maximum point. But I'd rather be that way than, you know, way off, I suppose. But be nice if it was a little bit tighter, but that's okay because I'm a little hard on engines anyway, so a little looser to begin with on start probably isn't as bad as some. So it's still it's within spec. It's actually fine. So now what we got to do is we got to clean these marks up, obviously, and I got to pull the crank back out, and we're going to lube it all up, re-clean everything just to make sure there's nothing in between the bearings and stuff that may have picked up, and then we'll lube it all up and put this back in, put the caps back on, torque it down for its final assembly. So why don't we get that started? I'm going to use a little bit of brake cleaner on spray it on the rag itself, or on the little. Like I said, this stuff's kind of waxy, but it'll come right off. So that noise you're hearing is one of those mini excavators tearing up the end of my driveway again. they actually tore it out a week back, and then they were nice enough to put a temporary driveway in for us and the neighbors, just so we have access to our driveway while they're tearing the street up and stuff. But apparently, without telling us, my neighbor's one who actually came over and told me. It's a different group of people doing it. They came over, or he told me that, hey, they're tearing that up. So I ran out and moved the truck out to the street. My wife's at work. So, all right. I'll pull this back out. Looks pretty good. So we're going to pull this out. Just grab a hold of it, pull it straight up out. Don't move it around any. Just straight up out. Ooh, I gotta find a place to put it where it won't fall off the table. Perfect. Look at the bearings. A couple little marks on it, stuff that was stuck to the crank probably. Okay, all looks pretty good. I'm a firm believer, not only in assembly lube, but certain ones I like better than others. And there's different ones out there on the market, because it may depend on where you're at or what stores you actually shop at. But this is a brand new one. I like buying new ones. Lucas brand, not a sponsor, but it is assembly lube. It's a semi-synthetic, and yeah, and this stuff is super tacky. That's what I like about it. And on the thrust, make sure you get the sides as well. And don't forget to clean the inside of your bearing on your caps too, that has that waxy stuff on. Don't leave that on there. The plastic gauge. Alright, that looks good. Let me double check the crank before I pick it up and throw it on there. Okay. Alright. Clean the inside of the cap. Let me throw more bolts on the ground first. A little bit more spray. It won't come off the bearing as good sometimes. It'll leave what almost looks like a mark on there where it was, but that's okay. That ain't gonna hurt anything. I forgot to clean them off before I got this project started. Let me clean the rest of them. I need to check my, since I didn't do it, I need to check my pickup tube on the new pickup tube. I know, off camera again. Just to make sure I don't need that one bolt in a different place. I'm pulling all the bolts. It's easier to deal with right now. There we go. That one's clean. Almost done, I promise. More. Okay. Same thing. You could put it on the main there too, but one. Just grabbed them randomly, put them in the right order, put them in the right direction. Now, as far as the plastic gauge goes, like I said, obviously taking them or having the right tools and doing it with a proper inside bore gauge and all that other stuff is actually preferred. But what this showed us here was that everything's exactly the same, and so there's no guesswork there in, well, I wonder, you know, if this was right or that was right, or if you know, the bearings I ordered were right, or because like I said, when you're building the engine yourself, when a machine shop does it, if it's wrong, well, there's obviously, it's easy enough to say, hey, you know, I just fired this thing up and it rattled, it was, you know, it was this, it was that, it was the other thing, whatever. When you do it yourself, it's kind of hard to blame it on somebody else, or, you know, try to figure out what happened if you didn't check everything yourself. You know what I mean? It's just so much better to check it yourself. And although not everybody has the really expensive inside, now I have bore, you know, the inside snap gauges that'll check the bore reasonable enough, and I have one small enough that would do the inside, but I don't have anything really to do the main caps and stuff with, if that makes sense, you know. So, all right. Before I start any bolts here, let me check this. Pickup tube. I haven't even opened the box yet. I've had it for a month or two. I ordered it right away when I realized that there was no way that double sump pan was going to work. So I ordered it. May have gone through CJ Pony on it too. I doubt it's got any type of, no, it does not. It actually just bolts to the oil pump itself, and there's no extra bolts. So it does not matter where that bolt goes. And since it was on number 3 to begin with, we're just going to put it back in number 3. It really doesn't make any difference, you know, where I put it. But that's where it came. I'm not putting the nut back on. It was a lock nut. Obviously, I'm not going to put it back on. There's no reason for that. So, all right. I'm not hammering them. Just get them all started. All right. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm actually going to take it to 30 pounds to begin with, all of them, and then I go back to 65. And I know you don't have to do that, but I know you don't have to do that, but that is just something that that I do. It's more just to make sure. But I can not only get every one of them, but it's taken down in nice orderly fashion, not, you know. Okay, that's all 30, and I'll take it to 65. Book said 60 to 70 pounds, so 65 is a good round number in my book. Come on now. That's it. It's always a good idea, guys. Once you're done torquing, take the spring load clear off of your take it back to 0. That way your spring is not compressed all the time on your So how did it work? Well, let's find out. Oh yeah, feels good. Feels really good. Got just the right amount of drag on it. So all right, crank is now installed. That's how you use plastic gauge. I'm going to go ahead and do the rods. I can plastic gauge them with you guys watching, but I probably won't. It's the same set scenario, except I cut them a little longer. And like if this is a throw that I'm doing, I put it all the way across both of them, because you're going to be torquing this one and this cylinder down at the same time. Do not put the rings on the pistons. It's much easier to put them in. Do your plastic gauge, take it back apart, and then put your rings on, you know, once you're all done with all 8 of them. And then put your rings on all the cylinders, oil everything up, oil the cylinders, oil that. We'll get into that when we do that part. I could plastic gauge the rods with you guys. We'll just kind of see how time goes, because I really need to get this together. I don't want to leave it open now. I kind of want to get it all the bottom buttoned up. So I'll bring you back here in a few minutes when I get set up to do the rods.